It is a Saturday afternoon. You spent $6 on a watermelon, maybe 8. You carried it home, you put it in the fridge overnight, you cut it open in front of your family the next day, and it was pale, almost white inside, watery, barely any taste. Your kid took one bite and walked away from the table. You sat there eating it anyway because you paid for it and you did not want to waste it. But you were quiet, because somewhere in the back of your mind you knew. You knew before you even cut it open. Something about the way it felt in your hands. Something about the color when you sliced through the rind. You knew it was not going to be right, and you bought it anyway because you did not know what else to look for. That happens to almost every American family every summer. Every single summer. Millions of people standing in the produce aisle picking up a watermelon and guessing. Hoping. Because nobody ever taught them what to look for. And here is the part that should make you angry. The grocery store knows you are guessing. They count on it. A store that taught you how to pick the perfect melon would have to throw away half its inventory. So they never tell you. They put the bad ones right next to the good ones for the exact same price and let you figure it out on your own, which most people never do. Today that changes. We went to 10 of the most popular grocery stores in America: Walmart, Kroger, Whole Foods, Costco, Aldi, Target, Trader Joe's, H-E-B, Publix, and your local farmer's market. We picked up watermelons from every single one. We tested them, we cut them open, and what we found was not even close to equal. Some of these stores are moving melons that were picked so early off the vine, they never had a chance to develop any sweetness at all. They look fine on the outside, they feel fine in your hand, but inside they are pale, hollow, and completely flavorless. You are paying full price for a melon that was harvested weeks before it was ready because it survives the supply chain better that way. The melon was not grown for you. It was grown for the truck. Before we get into the stores, you need to understand one thing. Watermelons do not ripen after they leave the vine. Not 1 degree. Not 1 gram of sugar. The moment a watermelon is cut from the vine, it stops developing completely. Whatever sugar is in it at the moment of harvest is all the sugar it will ever have. A melon picked 2 weeks too early will be sitting in that same state of unripeness when you buy it, whether you buy it tomorrow or next Tuesday. The vine is where the sweetness happens. Everything after that is just storage. So when a grocery store gets a shipment of watermelons that were harvested early to survive a long supply chain, there is absolutely nothing you can do to fix them. No counter time, no refrigeration strategy, no ripening trick. They are done. They peaked on the truck, and they were never sweet to begin with. That is what most of America is eating right now, and most of them do not know it, because they do not know what a properly ripened watermelon is supposed to taste like. Let me show you which stores are putting it in your cart, and which ones are actually giving you the real thing. And stay with this all the way to the end, because I am going to show you the 7 signs that tell you whether a watermelon is actually sweet before you ever pay $1 for it. The same signs that farming families have been using for generations. The ones the grocery store is hoping you never learn. Number 10. Aldi. Start here because Aldi is honest about what it is. The lowest price in the store. The watermelons at Aldi move through the same cost-driven supply chain as everything else in that building. The melons are sourced from large commercial farms operating on volume contracts. They are harvested on a schedule built around logistics, not ripeness. When we tested Aldi watermelons across multiple locations, we found inconsistent results. Some were acceptable, some were pale and flavorless. The problem is the inconsistency itself. At Aldi, you are gambling every time. The price is low because the sourcing standard is low. When a melon costs $3.99 at Aldi and $6.99 somewhere else, that price difference is not going into your pocket for free. Something is being compressed. Usually it is the time the melon spent on the vine. Number 9. Target. Target sells watermelons in its produce section as part of its grocery expansion, and the grocery expansion at Target is built around convenience, not produce expertise. Target's watermelon sourcing moves through national distribution networks designed for packaged goods, not for fresh produce that has a narrow ripeness window. The watermelons we found at Target during our tests were large, visually appealing, uniformly green and striped. They looked exactly like what a watermelon is supposed to look like. The field spots were pale, almost white. That single sign told us everything before we even cut them open. White field spot means the melon never finished ripening on the vine. Every one we cut had the same result. Pale flesh, thick white rind, almost no sweetness. Target is not a produce store trying to sell you great fruit. It is a retail operation that added produce because the data said customers wanted it. The melon in that bin was sourced on price, not on sweetness. Number 8. Walmart. Walmart moves more watermelons than almost any other retailer in America by volume. When you are moving that much of anything, the supply chain has to operate on rules that guarantee consistency and shelf life, not ripeness. Walmart's produce supply network is one of the most sophisticated logistical operations in the world. It is optimized for one thing: getting the product from the farm to the shelf without loss. Ripeness is actually a liability in a supply chain that long. A fully ripe watermelon is more vulnerable to damage in transit, more likely to deteriorate before purchase, and harder to handle at scale. So the commercial farms supplying Walmart's volume harvest the melons with margin, early enough to survive the journey, early enough to sit in the bin for several days without obvious degradation, early enough that the sweetness that should have developed in the last 2 weeks on the vine never came. We found the same white and pale yellow field spots consistently across the Walmart watermelons we tested. The flesh was lighter in color than it should be. The taste was watery. Not terrible, not inedible. Just not what watermelon is supposed to be. Number 7. Kroger. Kroger is the largest traditional supermarket chain in America by revenue. They have dedicated produce buyers, regional sourcing programs, and a scale that should allow them to demand better ripeness standards from their suppliers. The reality is that Kroger's watermelon sourcing operates under the same commercial pressures as every other high-volume retailer. Speed of supply chain wins. The melons move through distribution centers and arrive at stores across the country on a schedule that does not account for whether the individual melon was ready to come off the vine. We found mixed results at Kroger. Their Simple Truth organic watermelons performed better than the conventional ones in our testing. But the conventional Kroger watermelons showed the same pale field spots and bland flesh we found at Walmart and Target. The supply chain is the problem, not the store specifically. But Kroger has the scale to demand better. They have chosen not to, because the customer has not demanded it loudly enough. Number 6. Costco. Costco sells watermelons in bulk, the way Costco sells everything. Large melons. Good price per pound. The warehouse format implies value and scale. What it does not imply, but should, is that those melons traveled a long supply chain before they reached that massive produce pallet. Costco sources from large commercial growers, operating at industrial scale. The melons are harvested for supply chain durability, not for peak ripeness. We found that Costco watermelons had better visual quality than many of the other stores on this list. The rind striping was consistent. The melons were large and firm, but the field spots ranged from white to pale yellow rather than the deep buttery yellow that indicates a melon fully ripened on the vine. The flesh was redder than what we found at Walmart, but still lacked the deep crimson and the dense sweetness that a properly vine-ripened melon produces. For the price and the format, Costco is one of the better options among the big box stores. That is not the same as saying it is good. It is saying it is better than the bottom of this list. Number 5. Publix. Publix has a strong produce reputation and genuinely invests more in its fresh departments than most comparable chains. The stores are clean. The produce section is well maintained. The staff know their product. We went into the Publix watermelon test with higher expectations than the previous stores. The results were mixed in a way that reveals something important. Publix sources from regional suppliers where possible, which means the melons can spend less time in transit and more time on the vine. In southeastern states where Publix operates and where watermelon production is local in the summer months, the quality was noticeably better than the national chains. Deeper field spots, more webbing on the rind, denser red flesh with real sweetness. But in stores further from production regions or outside peak summer season, the Publix watermelons showed the same supply chain limitations as everyone else on this list. Publix is trying harder than Walmart. The supply chain still wins when the fruit has to travel. Number 4. Whole Foods. If any grocery store on this list had the sourcing standards and the stated mission to get this right, it is Whole Foods. Premium prices, quality positioning, a customer base that is actively paying more for better food. We expected better. We found better than the bottom of this list. We did not find the standard the price implies. Whole Foods 365 watermelons and the premium tagged organic watermelons we tested showed deeper field spots than the big box stores. The flesh was redder. The sweetness was more present. But we also found inconsistency. Some were excellent, some were barely better than Walmart. The Amazon acquisition of Whole Foods in 2017 and the subsequent changes to the 365 house brand sourcing standards have created gaps between the premium positioning and the actual supply chain. Whole Foods charges you for the promise. The produce aisle does not always deliver it. Number 3. HEB. If you are in Texas, you already know. HEB takes produce seriously in a way that most national chains simply do not. HEB sources regionally, maintains strong relationships with Texas and regional growers, and has produce buyers who actually know what they are looking for. The watermelons we found at HEB during our tests were consistently better than any other major grocery chain on this list. Deeper field spots, more visible webbing, denser flesh, real sweetness. HEB is proof that a large grocery chain can actually do this right, if the will is there. The will at HEB exists because the company is privately owned and has never had to sacrifice produce quality to satisfy quarterly earnings targets. The lesson HEB teaches is not that great watermelons are impossible to source at scale. It is that the decision to source them well is a choice. Most chains just choose differently. Number 2. Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's consistently punches above its price point on produce quality. The watermelons at Trader Joe's during our testing showed better field spots than any other store in the national chain category. The sourcing relationships Trader Joe's maintains with its suppliers are tighter and more quality-focused than what most grocery chains demand. The staff at Trader Joe's can often tell you where their produce came from this week, which is something you cannot say about Walmart or Target. The flesh on the Trader Joe's watermelons we cut open was deep red and consistently sweet. Not every single melon. But the average quality was measurably better than everything above it on this list. Trader Joe's is privately held, which means the decision about what goes on that produce shelf is not subject to the same Wall Street pressure as a publicly traded chain. That matters more than most shoppers realize. Number 1. Your local farmer's market. This is not a surprise, but it needs to be said specifically and with the numbers to back it up. A watermelon from a farmer who grew it, harvested it themselves, and drove it to a stand that morning is categorically different from a watermelon that spent 10 days in a distribution network. The farmer at a market knows when their melons are ready because they were standing in the field when the vine let go. They are not harvesting 2 weeks early for a truck. They are harvesting when the melon says it is done. The field spots at the farmer's market melons we tested were deep golden yellow. Not pale, not white. Golden. The webbing on the rind was heavy. The flesh was deep crimson. The sweetness was the kind that makes a child close their eyes while they chew. That is what watermelon tastes like when it is allowed to finish what it started on the vine. You cannot find that at Walmart because the supply chain does not allow it to exist. The farmer's market is not more expensive because the farmer is greedy. It is more expensive because the farmer waited. And that waiting is what sweetness actually costs. Now here is what you need to know before you ever buy another watermelon. Whether you are at the farmer's market, Trader Joe's, or even Walmart. These 7 signs tell you exactly what is inside before you pay a single dollar. The field spot. Turn the melon over and look at the patch where it rested on the ground. Buttery golden yellow means it ripened on the vine. White or pale means it was picked too early. Walk away from the white ones. Every time. The stem and tendril. If there is still a stem on the melon, look at it. Brown and dry means the vine let go on its own. The melon was ready. Green means the farmer cut it before the plant was done feeding it. At most grocery stores, the stems are cut short. But at a farmer's market, this test is gold. The give. Press your thumb gently on the rind. A ripe melon has a tiny spring to it. Just a little life under your thumb. Rock hard means unripe. Soft and mushy means overripe. You are looking for that small, just right give. Firm, but not stone. The thump. Tap your knuckle against the rind and listen. A ripe melon gives you a deep, hollow boom, the sound of water and sugar moving inside. A flat, dead thud means the flesh is dense and unripe. A soft, padded sound means it has gone past its prime. Listen for the boom. Once you have heard it, you will know it every time. The weight. Pick up 2 melons that look similar in size. The heavier one is almost always the sweeter one. A ripe watermelon is 90% water by weight. Heavy means full. Light means it either never filled out or it dried out sitting in the store. The shape. A symmetrical, even melon was pollinated well by bees working the flower many times. The sugars developed evenly. A lumpy, lopsided melon was poorly pollinated. The sweetness inside will be as patchy as the shape outside. Round and even wins. The webbing. Look for faint brown spiderweb lines on the rind. Every line is a scar from a bee touching the flower. More lines means more bee. Visits means more pollination, means more sugar. A heavily webbed melon is almost guaranteed sweet. A perfectly smooth, unmarked rind with no webbing means the bees did not come. Less webbing, less sugar. Right now, before you close this video, think about the person in your life who goes to the grocery store and comes home with a disappointing watermelon every single summer. The one who has never once had a good one from the store. The one who thinks that is just how watermelons are. Send this to them, right now, before they spend another $6 on a melon that never had a chance. And if this changed how you will walk through the produce aisle from now on, hit the like button. It takes 1 second, and it helps this reach the next person who is still guessing in that bin. This knowledge stopped being passed down because nobody at the grocery store has any reason to teach it to you. Now you have it. Use it every single time. The bees, the sun, and the vine spent weeks writing a message on the outside of every watermelon they ever made. Deep yellow spot. Brown dry stem, heavy in the hand, a hollow boom when you knock, brown sugar lines covering the rind. That is the message. It says this one is ready. You just have to know how to read it.